So texture baking is working. I was able to load the tiles into a new scene and just export a low resolution image of it. And the further you get away, you can see here that the texture is swapped out with the lower resolution baked one. It's quite hard to tell from a distance that it's been swapped out, which is pretty much what you want. You could also see another terrain improvement. Let me just readjust the camera here, and I'll turn it to wireframe. So the further you get away from the terrain, it doesn't actually unload it. So the reason for that is I want people who are very far away to still be able to see prominent pieces of terrain. So as you can see, it's replaced that huge mountain with a very low poly piece of terrain, and it has a new shader applied that only shows, there's no texture, it just applies a flat color and it only shows up from this direction. So it's very low processing power to show that. And yeah, it really helps if you're far away, you're exploring the world and you see some mountains or something, you know that you should probably go over there and check them out. There are a few bits related to texture and material loading, and even this little terrain painting brush that relate to how the materials and shaders are loaded. So I ended up loading them globally and then referring to them and reusing them from the global game state. So if I jump over there, you can see I've got a few little helper functions here that load and unload textures, get certain materials. So this is how I handle all of the baked material loading, the behind material for the terrain that's very far away. And so the way putting it globally let me have a way to sort of fake a global uniform shader. Probably not the most optimal way, but it seems to work pretty well. So that's how I've got this working. So this is actually, this little brush is updated in the shader. As I move it, I'm iterating over the different shaders and I'm updating the parameter that's in there. So I can show you, I've got draw brush, brush position, brush in, brush radius. So as I'm moving it, the editor's sending a call to that function, update brush position, and it's iterating over the terrain and the baked materials and updating that position. And when it runs off the screen or I switch away from the terrain, it turns it off and hides it. So I thought that was a pretty neat way to sort of fake to reuse a lot of the shader materials, and B, to have a sort of pretend global uniform for the shaders. This one's not very exciting, but still one step towards a finished game. So I just added basic map loading in the terrain. Previously it was only like loading one map, but I've now added a method that refreshes all the chunks, reloads the chunks for that particular map, and then loads in the new map. So if I one second. If I come up here and I click load map, so I'm on map 1 now, so if I click load map 2, now I'm onto a different map. And so I have this wired up. This is one of the more exciting things. I have this wired up with the networking, so when I log in, it'll automatically load the proper map and put me onto it. So yeah, I got the load map there after the login packet. So networking, I'm going to cover probably in a separate video, just so I can go through it in proper detail. But yeah, so that's map loading.